Welcome to the first episode of To the Edge. With me today is Mike Messier.
Glad to be here, everybody. Thanks, Roland, for having me.
Not a problem. So our topic today will be about the movie industry in general and the process of making films. Mike Messier, do you want to kick this off?
Sure. Well, I am an independent filmmaker from Rhode Island, and I use the word independent, I should say very independent, Roland, because independent filmmaking, a lot of times you say that and you think of something like Miramax or one of those major independents, but for me, it's been, for the most part, out of pocket, working with great local actors, working with scripts that I've written myself, not having a whole lot of outside support. I clarify that real quick by saying there is support in the community from groups like the Rhode Island Film Collaborative, groups that are run by my buddy Anthony Ambrosino, who's of some note down in Rhode Island, or a lot of note, as he would let you know. And we try to keep things very productive with our very independent films. However, it's tough, and it's a challenge. And what I've learned through being an extra actor or background actor on set for some major motion pictures and having a few kind of lucky breaks with being on major motion pictures, I can talk about in a minute. It's tough no matter what level of the business you're at. If you're making a $15.5 million budgeted movie like Hard Luck, a Wesley Snipes movie that I was in back in 2005, you have a challenge right there, and that was director Mario Van Peebles, who directed New Jack City and a few other top films. And Mario was on the phone, I mean, not to give away any secrets, but this is 7 years ago. Mario was on the phone with somebody talking money, and we're talking the last week of shooting a major picture, and that was a challenge. In fact, Roland, they thought Hard Luck was going to be released Memorial Day weekend across the country in national theaters. Didn't turn out that way. We went straight to video, and, and
not good.
No, it wasn't good, but the movie did find its audience on USA Network, and the movie has a great actor named Louise Guzman, who you might remember from Boogie Nights, and had Sybil Shepherd, who was on Moonlighting and even Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro. She was an icon. She still is, as far as blonde bombshells. And I got to play Sybil Shepherd's son in Hard Luck. There was a lot of great actors in that movie, Mario Van Peebles included, and his father, Melvin Van Peebles, who directed some of the first blaxploitation films.
Oh.
Yes. So we had a cool cast and an interesting story in Hard Luck. But just to wrap up the story, this movie, it went to USA Network, which is a success in itself, but it wasn't, what they really hoped for, which was major motion picture, national release. So my point is that even a movie that's $15.5 million in it, which is a whole lot of money in my world, that's still not enough to necessarily guarantee big success.
Right, because you have these major blockbusters, these summer tentpole films, and they have budgets of $150 million, which used to be considered a ridiculous amount of money because that's how much Waterworld cost, and they consider that to be the most expensive movie ever made.
And Waterworld didn't do so well, and I remember going to a Newport movie theater to see Waterworld, and with Kevin Costner. I actually liked the film because I like Kevin Costner, and I thought it was a cool concept, and maybe because I'm in Newport, Rhode Island, surrounded by water, and you're seeing a movie about water and so forth, it was a little more fun. But the reality is, even a movie with a top star like Kevin Costner at the helm is not going to guarantee a success. On the flip side, just the other night, I saw a movie called Hope Springs with Meryl Streep, Tommy Lee Jones as the leads. They're playing a married couple that have kind of the spark is gone, so to speak. And I went down to North Stonington, Connecticut, October of 2011 to do extra work on this movie. And lo and behold, I kind of got thrown in the mix, and I got a little bit of the action in the film, just out of the blue. Maybe it was good karma, or the movie gods were looking out for me, Orson Welles or Alfred Hitchcock or somebody. I'd say Quentin Tarantino, but he's not dead yet. And so it was a lot of fun because they put me in the mix with a scene with Meryl Streep herself and Elizabeth Shue. The next thing you know, they're using my name, Mike, in the movie. And so now, months and months later, back in April, the preview for this movie came out, and I'm in it. And then in the movie, I'm in it, And so this is just a miracle for an independent actor, filmmaker to be able to put that on my little resume, that cachet. Hey, I got a little screen time with Meryl Streep and Elizabeth Shue.
No, that is good, because people see that and then they're likely to see that in the resume and they're like, wow, that stands out. We should talk to this guy.
Yeah, hopefully they will. And, the reason I tell that story is because, a tip of the hat to my friend, film casting director Jody Purdy. She says that, do the extra work, because you never know what's going to happen. You do extra work and you might get down there and the next thing you know, you got a day player role, or something happens to an actor and they need somebody. Anything could happen on a movie set. Most of it good. Sometimes some things happen that aren't so good, but for the most part, it's good stuff. So my point with that story was that Hope Springs has a huge budget. A huge budget. And when I was watching that movie, I was like, hey, where's all this budget? Where's all this money for the movie going to? I think it's going to, the big actors in it, your Meryl Streep, your Tommy Lee Jones, and also to the music, because they've got some killer music in that movie. They've got Lenny Kravitz at the end credits. They've got Annie Lennox music in the movie. So all those rights, the ASCAP rights and all that good stuff, that's a lot of bank right there.
So these producers, when they have these budgets, how do they allocate the money, or how do they obtain the money? Do they put it in themselves, or do they get grants or loans, or is it a pool in by a committee? How do they go about creating these budgets for these films?
Probably all the above, Roland, because the major motion pictures, such as the Meryl Streeps and Tommy Lee Jones, and even, 5 or 10 years ago, Wesley Snipes, those movies probably have foreign distribution rights that are put in effect, or your Sony, your Miramax, your name any company, and they have those inroads, and they've got that guarantee with a nationally ranked star that they're going to make a movie. I was just reading a book. I do read once in a while, but I was reading a book the other day, and there was an anecdote about Nicole Kidman, and for a little bit of a run there, she had a hard time being insured, because these top actors, when there's millions of dollars on the line, they have to be insured. You never would think that Nicole Kidman, how great she is, would have any type of trouble being insured, but apparently around the time they did Moulin Rouge, she was actually considered a risk factor, and there's something to do with Cold Mountain and something to do with Moulin Rouge. I don't want to, I'd read the story in the book, and those were the movies related, but, you'd think like, man, Nicole Kidman, I'd love to have her in my movie. Well, somebody had some concerns. It's interesting stuff.
What would be the risk, like certain scenes where you'd normally hire a stunt person, or is that what it would be?
Well, no, just the fact that there was concerns that she may not finish the movie. I guess there was some type of dispute with an original film where she was signed the contract or something. I don't want to misjudge the story, but there was something that happened that something didn't go through the way it was supposed to in this case, and I'm sure it happens a whole bunch of times. We can go to a specific case that I do know a little bit about. It was Kim Basinger, or Kim Basinger as she's known. She was doing a movie called Boxing Helena, and she was signed on for this Boxing Helena movie, and then I think the story goes that she didn't want to do the nudity in the movie. Well, she had signed the contract with these producers to do the nudity in the movie Boxing Helena, and they had to make a scramble. They got another actress in the movie, Sherilyn Fenn, who, to me, she's fantastic too. But they felt that because Kim Basinger did not perform in their movie, they lost box office. So they actually sued Kim Basinger. If I remember this story, this is like a 20-year-old story, and I'm only 17, so I'm just talking about before I was born. But they sued Kim Basinger in a courtroom, and I think they actually won, or maybe settled out of court. But the point is, Kim had a real tough time for a little while, until maybe Batman or something. She kind of had a comeback. But all this Hollywood brouhaha and hoopla, it'll drive you nuts.
Yeah, I can believe it. The problem is she signed that contract, so she had no legal ground to stand on.
Right, and so it's just a really, really, really tough business. I'm just discovering on my own, Mike Messier level that, and you get involved with stuff, and you have these big personalities, and these, sometimes the personalities will just bounce off each other, and sometimes they will explode, and it's tough.
So what do you do when you deal with a really, really difficult actor who's making the set a living nightmare?
Well, sometimes you just let them do their thing, because if there's like some storm a coming, storm, this is a storm.
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
this going on, and you bring the lightning and the storm, well, you're just going to have some destroyed houses. Sometimes it's better just to let that storm pass, get what you can, get your beginning, middle, end, and just be happy that you got something. And sometimes, though, on the flip, you got to say, hey, look, if you're not in the middle of the shoot day and you have time, like at a rehearsal or something, you can say, hey, look, I understand your concerns, but I am the director here, and can you just kind of work with me? But a lot of times you got to roll with it, and the 90% of directing, it's been said over and over again, is casting. Cast the right people. And if you get into a situation where you've cast someone and they are the right person, but maybe as a director you're not living up to your end, then you got to make modifications. I was going to say you're screwed, but I didn't want to be pessimistic.
Well, hopefully they don't go all crazy like Christian Bale in that episode on
yeah.
Terminator.
Yeah, when he was kind of yelling at the guy. And
Yeah.
that got released, yeah.
And I imagine that if you want to recast this super difficult actor, it costs too much to reshoot all those scenes all over again, especially if you're so far in.
Well, you're emotionally invested. When you have an actor and as a director, writer, myself, if I'm in a situation where someone who I've put my energy into, my heart into, I said, this is the person, this is the actor or actress that I want to work with, and then something's going askew, that's on me. That's not on the actor, because they are who they are. Mm-hmm. If they're performing or if they're doing their thing, I got to work with them. They're doing me a favor by being on my movie, because A, I'm probably underpaying them. B, I'm probably giving them material that's not Citizen Kane. It's a movie that I wrote, which I put a lot of hard work into, but I haven't mastered my craft yet. I'm a work in the making, I'll say that. So I always say the opus is on the writer, director, producers. The actors are great, and some of them are going to have some situations within their own heads, but ultimately, who's running the show, or at least who's trying to. That would be me. That would be your Quentin Tarantino's, your Spike Lee's, and all those guys, who make their own movies.
Right. So if I see a bad actor in a film now, I know how to blame.
Blame the writer, blame the director. Maybe it's the material, but on the flip side, maybe they did have the good material and they didn't put their heart and soul into it. For instance, it comes up, just because we're wrapping out here, Keanu Reeves gets a lot of slack for his acting, but I think he's okay. I think he's pretty good. It's just the material. If you put him in something like The Devil's Advocate or The Matrix, I think he does pretty well.
Or Speed.
Speed, yeah, he was the guy for Speed. And somehow Keanu Reeves gets a reputation. He's wooden or he's not very good. Well, that was my Keanu Reeves impersonation.
Whoa, dude.
Bogus. But look at Keanu Reeves and look at the other guy from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Right. And
Alex Winter. I haven't seen him do anything in the last 20 years.
He did a TV show on MTV very briefly, and that's all I can remember. So here, Keanu Reeves, love to work with you, but we'll see what happens.
No, but I feel bad for actors who get typecast, because Keanu Reeves, despite what he's done, he can't shed the Ted image completely.
Right. He'll always be whoa, and time warp and all that good stuff.
Or Adam West. Batman pretty much destroyed his career as a serious actor.
Yeah, you can say that, Roland. You say that actors get typecast, or but take a look at a guy like Harrison Ford. Han Solo, but he's more than that. He's the guy in all the movies, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, for instance. That's kind of an interesting thing. If you're Sylvester Stallone and you're typecast as Rocky, what does he do next? He makes Rambo, so it's like, now if you're gonna typecast me as Rocky, you're gonna typecast me as do we get to win this one? Rambo.
Yeah, go from a boxer to a Marine, or what do I want to say? What's the right word? Mercenary.
Mercenary, yeah, mercenary, yeah. So and it's interesting that Sylvester Stallone, man, he Roland is one of my idols now, one of my heroes of film. 5 years ago I wouldn't have said that, but I've been doing some thoughts about stuff, and Stallone says in a magazine called Cigar Aficionado, because I am a cigar aficionado every once in a while. Stallone said something to the effect of, I'm always waiting for a project to come my way with a great script and the money in place, but it never seems to happen. I guess I'm destined to make my own way. something to that effect is what Stallone said.
That's inspirational right
yeah,
there.
it is, and you know, you got to give it to a guy like Stallone, or even I think it's Robert De Niro who started Tribeca Films. You know, these guys, and your Paul Newmans and your Clint Eastwoods, who just do their own thing.
He's got a second life now as a director.
Yes, Clint Eastwood has just a great man. You know, I don't know him personally, but he's a great contributor to the arts.
The best part about him and Sean Connery, for that matter, is that they're actors that play their age. I mean, not to knock Expendables, but you've got people who are past their prime still playing the roles that they did decades ago.
Yeah, and it's kind of a novelty act, the Expendables. I saw the first one, and it had some moments. The first moment that really sticks out for me from the Expendables, well, two things. Dolph Lundgren was great in that movie, and Dolph, I think, had a career that could have been bigger, you know, but Stallone put him in the Expendables, and I think he kind of stole the movie. And then there was a scene that was fun. Bruce Willis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Sylvester Stallone himself share a little moment. And apparently the story goes that they filmed this thing at like 2 or 3 in the morning. I was about to scratch my nose, but I don't want to be rude. So they did this little shtick, you know, in the 2 or 3 in the morning. They filmed this scene, and it came out pretty good, I thought. You know, just those Planet Hollywood guys from the late 80s, early 90s, you know, doing their thing. I thought that was fun.
You know, who was a good breakout actor in the action arena? Jeff Stantham, I think that's his name.
Yes, kind of is he the bald guy?
Yeah, bald British guy.
Right, he's good. He's very good. He does there's 2 or 3 of them with the hot Amy actress, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, so he's good, yeah, and I think he's in those too. He's kind of like one of the younger guys, you know, although he's probably 40 himself, but he's in there.
He strikes me as kind of late 30s, maybe early 40s, but he was in The Transporter.
Oh, yeah.
Crank.
I saw, this was pretty stupid of me as a filmgoer, I went to see Crank 2 without seeing Crank 1, and believe it or not, I was actually confused. I was like, what's going on with this thing? Yeah.
It's this guy on the run, and he keeps running, so you just go with it.
Right.
What's there to understand?
I don't know. It was just a weird experience for me.
Even though the guy should have been dead.
Right.
He's like a car battery. Recharge it and then run.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember that actress's name. Amy something, but she was pretty good. You know, she's a good actress. She was in a lot of movies.
All right, so we've come to a standstill.
Yeah, right. But so I guess we can talk about, if you want to, Roland, you know, some other aspects of filmmaking. You know, probably the biggest thing, Roland, is the funding. And if I had more to say, man, I would, because I'm trying to figure that out. So if anyone, you know, I'm not going to ask for money, but go to, can I say my website? Is that allowed?
Yeah, go ahead.
MikeMessier.com. That's MIKE.
If it's not for profit, it's allowed.
It's not for profit. There is no stickery-do on the website, but it's myname.com. You can check it out. And I'm just trying to make a movie. I'm trying to make a few movies, and it's such a knuckle breaker when that money thing comes up, because you know, as an artist, you don't want to think about money, but the performers and the logistics of even feeding people counts, you know, so much for your movie to be even made.
Right.
know. So it's interesting.
I'm actually working on a film right now. It was going to be a silent film, but now I've decided to make it a talkie. It takes place in the 1920s. I call it Phantasm of Fear. And you have this young couple who's moved into this apartment, and it's haunted, and the landlord is trying to get people to move in, and they keep dying, and I'm working on the backstory for it right now. And the problem is the budget, and how do I get these 1920s set pieces?
Right. Probably the only thing I can suggest is like checking out your local community theater or the local regional theater and see if they've done a show, you know, and they kept it in the costume shop.
Right, because they've done a lot of period pieces, like the early 20th century, the 19th century, you name it. So if I can get in touch with those, then I'd be golden, or turn it into like an opportunity for students as part of a drama club in a high school or a college.
I think you got it worked out. You know, I think that's a great idea.
I just need to cast someone older as the landlord, because no one's going to take a 20-year-old landlord or a 15-year-old landlord seriously.
You know, I've got 2 guys that come to the top of my head. I don't know how old you're looking for, but guys, you know, in
like 40.
Yeah, I got some guys for you, so I'll introduce you if you like. Great thing about Rhode Island, Roland, and Southern Mass, and actually the whole state of Massachusetts and Connecticut. So many great actors, you know, who are just looking for that opportunity to be involved in something with yourself or with me. And they don't necessarily want that money. They just want the fun and the exposure and try to climb that ladder. And this is a ladder. They're trying to climb that success, and
get from here to here to here.
Right. And I've for my part, I've seen it happen. I've seen people. If I could just say a couple of names, my friends Michael Reed and Sarah Nicklin were local Rhode Island actors. They were doing movie after movie after movie with a local film company, I think Scorpio Rising Films, and they got the experience, they got the knowledge, they got the know-how, and off they went to Los Angeles. And from what I understand, Sarah Nicklin and Michael Reed, happily married couple, are doing quite well. And I just mentioned that as a success story, and one of my actors, Adam Buxbaum, from my own film Blood Sugar Sedace, he is on the road right now as we speak, headed out west and going to California, going to take his swing at the bat. So I wish him the best, but some actors, like the rest of my cast, Lawrence O'Leary, Stacey Forbes, and Jamie Tennille, they are kind of sticking with the Rhode Island scene right now and seeing what happens with our movie Blood Sugar Sedace. And just to talk about that one for a minute, if I could, all that stuff I was talking about as far as funding and tough times and all that, every once in a while you find the lightning in the bottle. And last summer, 2011, me and my buddy Tim Nabanti were able to pull that off. We co-produced a film together called Blood Sugar Sedace. I had about $8,500 budget, which kind of got nestled up to $10,000 before we were done.
It's a lot of money to me.
Well, the money kind of came from an unusual place, let's just put it that way. It didn't fall off the back of a truck, but there was a vehicle involved. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
And so we were able to make this movie, and most of that $10,000 went to equipment, like a nice high-definition camera, Sony, and we were able to make this movie, and the actors got it. They said, well, we're not really going to get paid very much. We're not going to get, limousines picking us up to rehearsals or anything, but we will learn something from this crazy dude, Mike, hopefully, and we will, work our butts off and learn 59 pages worth of dialogue. And I'm telling you, Roland, there was not a car chase in this movie. There was not a fight scene. It was all dialogue. And in a movie that if any studio, local studio or national studio saw this thing, they would say, go make it a play. Do something else with this thing.
That's kind of too bad, because some of the best movies have no action scenes whatsoever, like 12 Angry Men.
Right.
They're just sitting there deliberating, and then they come up with a verdict, but it's so engaging to watch that for 2 hours.
I think we pulled it off with Blood Sugar Sedace, Roland, and you'll definitely be invited to when we start having movie premieres in Rhode Island and hopefully Southern Mass. And
I look forward to it.
thank you. We're going to send it to the film festivals, and I just tell that story as a bit of a success story in my mind, because we were talking so much about the negative aspects of film and stuff like that. Every once in a while you catch that lightning in the bottle, you make your movie, and hopefully it's well received. But if no one else likes my movie, at least I do.
Well, I try to take what critics say and consider it, but ultimately I want to defend my vision. Sometimes they may have a point, but other times it's just they have a different view and they disagree with me. So I just take it as input and then decide what I want to do with it.
That's great, Roland. You ever hear that expression that it's not the man who is in the audience criticizing the warrior, it's the warrior in the ring with blood a-dripping, sweat a-sweating, hands a-scratched, all that good stuff, the lion ripping at his face. It's the warrior in the ring fighting that really counts. They don't build statues to critics. No offense to Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, two of my favorite critics, but they think about those warriors of cinema, the Alfred Hitchcocks, the Spike Lees, the Quentin Tarantinos, Orson Welles. You can go on and on and on and on and on.
Well, it's easy to criticize a piece of work, and it takes a lot of thought to be able to do it properly, but it's still not the same thing as actually putting something together. And if you're too close to the project, then you're not going to have the objectivity that a critic might, so they don't understand, and it's really not the same thing at all.
It's not. I mean, you can, with our show, with your show that you've had me on as a guest here, there's going to be people watching this on the internet and public access here in Massachusetts. They're going to love your show, or they might say, well, I could do better, and they're sitting on their couch eating their potato chip. Well, get off your couch, get off your potato chip, and come make a program here at the studio.
Or we'll just shoot you eating a potato chip and you can see what that looks like.
Right. Well, I think that program's on after us or something. But just joking. I'm sure it's a good program.
Chips.
Yeah.
California Highway Patrollers.
Right. Oh yeah, with Eric Estrada and
Yeah.
a bunch of blonde guys that kind of came and went.
Yeah.
I've been doing something that's probably pretty annoying for the audience, Roland, on this episode.
What?
I've been licking my lips a whole lot. I'm a little
Oh.
bit. I've had a bit of a dry mouth. I apologize, but I haven't done it in about 5 minutes. I've been thinking about it.
Well, hopefully people aren't paying super close attention to that. If they are, then they're probably not paying attention to what's being discussed.
Right. Let's see other topics we can talk about with filmmaking. I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
videos. You mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show that certain shows, they just go straight to video. Certain films, even when they're released in theater, they get a second life in video. Austin Powers initially did not do well in the theater at all, but it developed a following in the theaters, and as it went along in the video market, so the sequel made a lot more money.
That's right. Austin Powers 2, I believe Heather Graham kind of took over the role as the female lead,
Yeah.
and then the third one had Beyonce. And those were fun movies, the Austin Powers movies. And like you said, some of these movies don't hit big, in the theater, but it used to be the VHS rentals, and now it's the on-demand, or the Netflix or your service like that. I'm kind of old school. I like buying DVDs. I like spending a lot of money on DVDs. And unfortunately, I have about 200 films at home that I've collected, haven't even watched them yet. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I've got to get on that a little bit.
Do you know what annoys me? When I was a kid, and I'm old enough to remember this, theaters used to play movies for a while, and then when they were done, they'd go to something that's extinct now, the second-run theater.
Right.
So a movie would stay in the theater for 6 months. Now you have to see it in a month because then it'll be out of the theaters, even if it's a big hit.
Yeah. There was a throwback to the $1.50 theater that's in East Providence, Rhode Island. It's a small little one. You should come down and check it out sometime because it's exactly what you're talking about. I think they charge $2.50 now. There's been some inflation.
It's
but-
good.
Yeah, it is good.
Relatively. There used to be a theater in Brockton where I grew up when I was a kid, and Tuesdays they'd show second-run movies for $1
Nice.
Tuesday morning.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Roland, I think we got the cue from your producer, so maybe it's time to say goodbye.
Yes, thank you for watching this first episode. I was glad to have you here as a co-host, and thank you, audience, for watching. This will be the first of several episodes.